This video is about why abY is misunderstood as a character. First, before we talk about anything, spoiler alert. What does AI think about this game? So before I started recording this video, there was an option to do AI generated scripts. I just did a little prompt. I said The Last of Us Part 2, and I wrote abY as whatever highlight. This is the first script that it used. I'm going to show you 3. Hey there, movie buffs. Today we're diving into the thrilling world of The Last of Us Part 2. Let's talk about the character of abY. abY is a fascinating character in The Last of Us Part 2, and her story is a complex one. She's a survivor, a fighter, and a woman on a mission. Anyways, her journey is filled with pain that she caused, loss that she caused, and redemption. I'll recall the redemption part. Whatever. Her character arc is one of the most compelling aspects of The Last of Us Part 2. She is a strong, independent woman, oh my gosh, who fights for what she believes in, and her story is one that will stay with you long after you finish the game. Cap. That part is straight cap. Nobody remembers this. Thank you for joining me in my discussion about abY in The Last of Us Part 2. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget, anyways, you get the point. That's the first script. Second script. Hey there, movie buffs. Today we're diving into the world of The Last of Us. I don't know why I did that. Anyways, focusing on the character of abY. abY is a complex character, and her story is intertwined with Ellie. abY's journey is a complex journey. abY's journey is a journey of redemption. Her actions are a direct result of her experiences. Her actions are a reflection of her character, and her story is a testament to the power of redemption. I don't know why they keep saying redemption. Who said she got redeemed? Redeemed by who? Who redeemed her? abY did not get redeemed by Ellie. That's my point. Third, final script, bro. This is the one I'm gonna use. Hey there, movie lovers. Today we're diving into the highly anticipated sequel, The Last of Us Part 2. We'll be focusing on the character abY, who has captured the hearts of many fans. abY is a strong and determined character who is willing to go to great lengths to protect those she cares about. She's a skilled fighter, and her journey in the game is filled with heartbreak and loss. Despite her tough exterior, abY is a compassionate and empathetic person who is driven by her love for her father. Overall, abY's story in The Last of Us Part 2 is a testament to the power of human connection and the resilience of the human spirit. So if you haven't had the chance to play the game yet, I highly recommend you giving it a try. And if you have, I'd love to hear your thoughts on abY's character in the comments below. Thank you for joining me today. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more exciting movie and TV content. Until next time, keep watching. Anyways, the through line I got in that is AI is obsessed with the human nature and human experience. That's just what I got from it, but that's another video. So let's get into the game. Basically, the AI is wrong, bro. All 3 of these scripts are wrong. Like, it's AI, bro. What do you expect? But you guys are moving like AI anyways. No more AI scripts. This is me now. The brilliance behind abY Anderson. Narratively speaking, the game is all about abY and her story. The devs had a monumental task of incorporating her into the main story without compromising the first game's structural integrity. And what I mean by that is the game was hard to make because of the existence of the first one. I mentioned this in my previous video, how it being a sequel comes with a lot of underlying fears. Yeah, check it out if you want to. It's 30 minutes. It's only 30 minutes long. Interesting video, interesting angle. But yeah, so they didn't want to mess up the first game's quality, and they didn't want to deviate so much from the game that it feels like it's just like a random. It just feels like a random game. They didn't want to do that too much. It's executed so well to the point that the second game could be seen as a sequel or an anthology. or just denied of its existence entirely. Like, basically, if you're a fan of the first game, you don't have to play this game. Like, the story will still make sense. And if you only played this game for some reason, you don't have to play the first game, because the game will still make sense. But if you play both of them together, it makes sense. If you're willing to bypass the whole Joel situation. I don't know. But anyways, this video explores the different hurdles players and developers most likely had to overcome and how its execution is undeniably well crafted, no matter if you liked her abY as a character or not. First thing people talk about when mentioning abY is that she's a terribly written character. Well, the first thing that they mention is the thing about Joel or whatever. But then they go on to say that it's a terribly written character and this. But her real problem is that her flaws are too apparent and her intentions are too unclear. Whereas Ellie's intentions are clear in present day and not flashbacks, because that's another story. But her flaws are overlooked. abY's intentions are too unclear and her flaws are too apparent. So she's like cocky. And her intentions with Owen are confusing to most, mainly because they don't care about her story as a whole, whereas Ellie is on a murder path, so nobody cares who gets hurt. So like the player is easier aligned with Ellie because her intentions are clear. She's like, kill these people. I want to kill all of them. Easy to follow. abY's intentions are purposely unclear. Her intentions with Owen, her intentions with her dad, everything's always unclear. You have to, like as the AI said, you have to think deep into the human experience and, you know, empathize with the character like on a human level. Like, what would you do in these shoes, in this world, if you've been living like this for however old she is? An interesting parallel between abY and Ellie is the player is inclined to think that Ellie is right no matter what, minus cutting off Joel. A lot of people argue online that she's right in cutting off Joel, but those are people who also don't understand the story. So when I explain the first story, you guys are everything's just gonna make sense anyways. More videos in the future. The problem is everybody thinks that Ellie is right no matter what. So when she's in the wrong, you have to do very little thinking to justify her actions. Like, example is her killing a pregnant lady, but the pregnant lady is trying to attack her, so very easy to justify. And abY, the player, is constantly reminded of her choice of torturing people she never met, like Joel in her first interaction with humans. And scars, you see her, like how she talks about the scars and Sarah fights or whatever. So when it comes to her relationships, like with her friends and her father, the player is disinterested because she seems psychopathic and heartless. This is intentionally done to make the player go back and watch the story in the character's shoes. Only at the midpoint of the game was the player intended, because of streaming and YouTube, plot elements would have already been leaked and spoiled regardless of the story. Like, people be streaming, that's how everybody gets their information, is online. They would have seen it either way. They would have seen it either way no matter what the story was. I'm sorry about that. The game is designed around it being streamed and walked through and all that. Only at the midpoint of the game, the players intended to see her motivations that drove her into killing what in her eyes should have been an old man who saved her life. This is how it seems from the initial player's perspective if he never played this game before or seen the cutscene. To the players that were invested and immersed in the story, players who were excited and waited to play this game, all that was needed to empathize with her was the fact that her father was taken from her, which should have made players immediately empathize with her, seeing as how Joel dying, who is a character who isn't romantically or biologically tied to Ellie, was enough to make the player want to see her murder trip across America Part 2. I know people are going to get in my comments about how it shouldn't have been Joel and how his death made them feel whatever, but this video is about Abby and her story and how her character is underappreciated, overlooked, and just how well it is executed, regardless of how you feel about her as a character. So the problem with her backstory lies with the player not caring about the Dr. Jerry and how he's so desperate to kill Ellie, and her seeming like too much of a monster because it was Joel who died. So the player did empathize with Abby in a way, but it was not enough to overlook her flaw of killing a beloved character. The end result is they redirected the confusion and lack of empathy that was purposely put onto Abby. They redirected that and they put it onto Jerry. And they only see her as a monster because of who she killed / how she did it, which are annoying nitpicks that tie to the way the player viewed Joel in the first game. So now they are disconnected from the plot moving forward, but only if they played and loved the first game. The only thing keeping it together for the players who feel like this at this moment are the ones who want to see how Ellie's story ends. They're like, Ellie can't die too, it's impossible. The issue is now that the players keep injecting / projecting their real world views onto fictional characters who live in the apocalypse, while the characters and devs show how the fictional world operates and how they think in it. And because Joel isn't magically coming back, there's no more flashbacks at this point because you're playing as Abby. And the doctor is already dead, so you can't tell if he was a good character similar to Joel or anything. A lot of players will most likely turn off the game at this point, at least the ones who hate it. Some will never return or will take a longer break from it, literally disconnecting them from the story, and only return to see if Ellie's okay. Some of them might watch the rest of the story play out in a YouTube video, compilation, or just watch somebody talk about it. So I know you guys are going to be asking about Joel and Joel's death and this, that. I'm going to save it towards the end of the video, not to like drag you guys out, just because it's going to make more sense. Because the way I wrote the script, it's going to build up her character, because her start of the story is like, it's weird. Like, that's like the end of her story. The beginning of the story, when you see her playing, is like the end of her story. Like, that's how she was the whole time. Like, it's kind of hard to explain, bro. I'm just gonna... Now I want to go into like a little bit of the like writing aspect. First of all, you can never make men empathetic / vulnerable without using women or children. And you can't make women seem like a threat without the use of men. And what I mean by this is, if you're watching a movie and you want to empathize with the man character, the male character, and feel like, oh, he's a good person and this, that, you're going to have to see how he deals with children, how he's, like, you know? How does he deal with children? How does he deal with women? A good example of this is Hancock. They want you to make you feel like he's an asshole, like, oh, he's the worst guy, so he throws the kids up in the air and he's slapping girls around, and, you know, just like, you know, that's the other side of it. So if you want to make them seem like villains, their use with children and women is the easiest way to do that. But you cannot make them like empathetic without the use of women or children, because men are just supposed to be protectors and providers, and so like that's what's respectable, like defending the harmless, defending the vulnerable. But anyways, and you can't make women seem like a threat without the use of men, period, point blank. This is just how it is. Like, the woman is only going to be threatening because of the men she has around her. So an example of this would be like El Chapo's wife. Like, nobody's scared of El Chapo's wife or something like that. No, not El Chapo. We don't want to play, like, you see what I mean? We don't want to play with El Chapo in it. Like, so we're not even going to disrespect the wife. She's feared. That part was kind of a little bit too personal, too real. But if you want to put it into like, because there's not like you can't make women seem threatening in stories. It's very hard to do this. You have to develop the men around her to make her seem like a threat. Like, you know what I'm saying? All right, I don't want to get too much into this debate politics and girls versus guys BS, bro. It's not about that. I'm just saying like physical threat, a physical threat. Like nobody's gonna be physically threatened over Kim Kardashian. Like nobody thinks that she's gonna throw hands with you. Like you see, that's a personal, like real person. Boom. Nobody's physically threatened over Mary Jane. All right, nobody. But like, let's say, like it's very hard to do this, bro. Who would be a threat? Like who would you be threatened by in like a female character, like female fictional character? Uh, like threatening. I don't know, bro. You just can't make her threatening without the men, bro. It's just not gonna happen, and it's not just my point of view. It's just how it is. You guys are too short. All of that. Women aren't threatening is why a lot of characters die by women and stuff in this game. If you look at concept photos for her character, you will see that they went through a lot of variations. This is because she is just as important as Joel and Ellie, if not more so. The two important factors that they had to include in her visual and character design was to make her empathetic, and the harder task was to make her somebody others should fear. They did this easily with Joel in the first game. Just by showing you his daughter made you empathetic to him immediately off the bat. I have Reddit posts and stuff like that. People just talking about how they loved the character of Ellie and it made them relate. I mean, Sarah or whatever. Just seeing them on the couch. Like, you know, he's a chill guy. It made you empathetic. He's there looking after his daughter alone. They didn't really try to make Joel seem like a threat in the game. He was just seemed like somebody who was affected by the thing, but like he's implied through the background that he's been through some rough stuff. The torturing part, that made you realize like, oh man, this guy's a threat. Like this guy could do a lot. Whoa. So the hardest task was to make her somebody others should fear. Trying to make women seem like standalone threats is hard to pull off. Damn near impossible. Now the reason they didn't want to make her a person of color was because most people won't empathize with her. It's basically the same reason why Sarah wasn't black in the video game, because they could have made her black in the game just like how they made her white. They'll say that it's about, oh, we found the perfect actress and this. The same reason that Sarah isn't black in the video game, it's because the game had to make you care about Sarah enough so that her death is felt throughout the game, at least the beginning, and helps you empathize with her. But in the show, she's black, so her death isn't as big of a distraction because they've seen how players reacted with Sarah's death with the video game. They seen how people were crying and this that had to stop the game. They didn't want the story to be like that. The story needed to move on, but not move on too fast. So they also let you spend a whole day with her in the TV show. So this will make you think that it'd make you like her more, but it does the opposite, because if you've seen any trailers of Ellie isn't black. And you've seen the destroyed world and the zombies, and that's what the viewer is just waiting to get to because it was advertised. Now, if abY was black, especially seeing how every black character in this game is dead. If abY was black, especially seeing how every black character in this video game was shot to death. Besides maybe Riley. That's another video. I hope Isaac is alive though, for real. Now if abY was black, this will subconsciously make the justifying of her actions and empathizing with her character even more difficult. Because like right now people can't even empathize and justify her actions, which is the nature of this video. So if she was black, Bro, it would have been even worse. If she was trans, it would have been even worse. Like, people are not, they're not gonna do that, bro. Anyways, because she's so visually different to the main characters, everything would seem even more unreasonable. Kind of like the way you put Nora. Like, Nora, everybody's like, yeah, Nora. Whoa, pause. Everybody's like, yeah, Nora deserved it. Yeah, I'm just mad I couldn't see it. I mean, I was saying that, but like, it's not because she was black, but like, I just wanted to see the violence, bro. I'm like, whoa, how did she make her face look? Because like, they did Joel dirty. They showed his face, but anyways, the task of making her a threat was very hard as well. The easier option would have just been to make Abby a dude, but then you wouldn't empathize with him because he's a man, especially if his dad died. That would have been an overdone plot point, and it still is an overdone plot point, but making her female adds to the story of how the world went to and everybody adapted and things like are flipped on their heads. Making her a buff white female makes her empathetic while maintaining her perception as a threat. If she was a man with muscles, he would seem generic and the player would see him as a threat, and only that. If he was frail, he would automatically seem sinister in the same way the player distrusted every character who was male besides Tommy in the first game, specifically David. And if she was even more average and everyday looking, she would be considered empathetic, but painting her as a serious threat or monster, as Neil Druckmann stated he wanted to do, would be an even harder task, and making her fat would lose both empathy and fear factors considering the state of the world. Bill being fat in part 1 makes sense because he's alone and he's just trapping out the whole town, bro. You trapping, bro. Devs could have made a self-contained story about her or a connected one involving Ellie and Joel. Making her seem like the villain of the game was great, but they couldn't market it that way because it's not true. At first, everybody was assuming Abby is Ellie's mom. That's what everybody thought. That's actually a smart marketing tactic now that I think about it, because it prepares you to that there's gonna be like more flashbacks in this game. Okay, so like that makes you think like, oh, what's this game gonna be about? It's like flashbacks, this. Anyways, if you do consider her the villain, then when you finally put yourself in Abby's shoes, you can see how she sees Joel as the villain. Not only in her eyes did he actually kill her real father, who also destroyed the cure and ended the Fireflies. So basically, this man killed her father, killed her friends, destroyed the vaccine, and ended the Fireflies. You understand why he could be the villain? But this is from her perspective. Now, people are going to say that he didn't end the Fireflies, they're still back, but in their eyes right there, they lost all hope. Like, the only choice they had to gain power was to use a vaccine. This is probably something they could have leveraged over Fedra. They could have, rallied up more people. Like, yeah, we have the cure, guys. Get more people to recruit instead of having to train a bunch of little kids. So Joel killing that destroyed the Fireflies. At least everybody in that building, they're going home. They're like, what? They killed Marlene? They took the cure? Like, we're going home then. Who's gonna make the food? Anyways, by the end of the game, Abby still doesn't care about the cure or know if Ellie is immune, and Ellie still doesn't know that the doctor was her father. So they still are not on an understanding. Abby's revenge was more personal, but she was able to convince her friends to go along with her. Most likely because Joel purposely went against humanity in her eyes and destroyed the only cure. Directly. So basically in her eyes, Joel purposely went against humanity for somebody who he wasn't genetically or romantically. I know I'm saying romantically because like Owen was romantically tied with her, with Abby. So she has reasons to this guy, he technically on paper he shouldn't care about this girl, but like it's a little girl. Like in the first game, when I'm talking about the first game, he shouldn't care about the little girl. It's a random girl. Like, what the hell? And your daughter died, and like they try to make it seem like, oh yeah, he doesn't care. But that's another story for the video, bro. If you never understood Joel's story, like really understood and put yourself in his shoes, and same way I'm telling you guys to do it with Ellie and stuff, like you're never gonna understand this story, even to a slight degree. Ellie being alone in the world, in the broken world, of course he's gonna care after her, bro. We expect him, he's gonna slap her in her face and stuff. That's why you can't slap her in the face in the game. Anyways, basically, abY's is more personal. Ellie's is personal as well, but it was only personal because she's seen it. And Ellie made it more personal because she decided to cut Joel off and never really got to enjoy the life in Jackson. She was only beginning to reach out to him again. So this is what made it even more personal. But she's like, anyways, this video is about abY. abY learned that violence was not the answer after a life of preparing for it and witnessing it. Whereas Ellie's life was sheltered from before part 1 and after part 1. The only time she left the shelter, quote unquote, was during both game stories. Only when abY sees how Joel's death affected Owen does she start to see that this isn't the life they wanted and dreamt for themselves. And then she realizes that she took her friends for granted. Me and a couple other people online agree that abY lied about Isaac agreeing to send him off on this trip and go kill Joel in the middle of a war, because he would never do that. Like, come on. He's in the middle of a war. He even said he wanted her on the front lines. Like, what? Why would he send you on a trip? Whatever. But even if he did agree to it, it doesn't matter. Actually, it does matter. But I don't care. She realizes she was only focused on destruction and realized she should start repairing what was broken, starting with Owen and her relationship. This involves getting on the same page for once in her life and proving that she isn't a monster, / she could be a good person. And luckily, she found 2 stones to kill with that bird in the form of Yara and Lev. So only after hearing how sad and broken Owen is becoming and depressing, she's like, whoa, like, no, this ain't it. And I think that's why she decides to sleep with him and all that. Like, I don't know if she was a virgin before this, or that doesn't matter really. It doesn't matter really. But if she was a virgin at that point, yeah, it kind of does matter. It's like, whoa, that's how you lost your virginity, bro? Crazy. But yeah, it makes sense for her if that's how she lost her virginity. It shows you like she's backwards, bro. She's not even focused on that. If that's the first time she slept with Owen. But anyways, so after hearing that Owen is still a good person, like he killed Danny over this shit. Like he's like, yeah, I don't want to fight over land that's not mine. Like this starts to shift in her mind. This is why she has the dream about Yara and Lev. She doesn't have the dream before this. It's after this. Because they're tied low key to Owen. They don't even know that they're tied to Owen, and Owen doesn't even know that they're tied to her. But like once they meet, they understand it. Owen and abY have an understanding, because he's like, oh, you saved a Scar, I just saved a Scar too. You saved the old man Scar, I saved 2 children's, bro. I one-upped you. And this plays into her character and how she's annoying, like cocky and like, oh, I'm better than you. It works good with guys sometimes. Like a lot of people don't like it, but it works better when it's guys, because when it's girls, it's like, girl, like you weigh like 5 pounds, bro. Toss you around this room, which is why abY being buff and being hardened and a war criminal, being on the front line and whatnot, this plays into her, her image, or whatever you want to call it. You can see how the characters talk and act around abY that she is feared, but not necessarily in a threatening way, but more that she is emotionally unstable and a control freak, and they're afraid of setting her off because of the pain that she already endured. She doesn't like being told what to do, ever. She hates being told no, and she does not answer questions. Now, you can see her in her little interactions with her people. she's like ladies first, like, you know, she always wants to take the lead, like she's just like, it's like annoying. It kind of gets annoying because she's a female. It's like, oh my gosh, we get it, woman, you're a strong and independent woman. Like, jeez, like, if you're so strong and independent, leave me alone. Anyways, if you want to see her only as a villain, you won't understand the story because of your hatred for her. But if you want to understand her story and understand why she is like this, you would see that villain. The real villain in this story is the broken world and what it does to humanity. It twists and corrupts it, flips it on its head. abY's story that she's living in, minus the Joel part dying and whatever, could have been Ellie's. Raised among fireflies, going around trying to help people. But Ellie could never have been a firefly because they would have killed her for the cure. abY's story also got a little bit of Tommy's story in there because of her willingness to seek out the fireflies. Technically, so does Ellie, because she was seeking out the fireflies, but she's trying to murder shit. But whatever. She didn't even know she's chasing fireflies. But besides the point, she has a bit of Joel's story in the sense that she lost a loved one and cannot be replaced and was changed forever because of it. Ellie also has this aspect. abY's friends mirror Ellie in the sense that they're not truly friends. Owen is a disregarded love interest and Mel is his new girlfriend. Dina is the disregarded love interest for Ellie and Jesse is her ex-boyfriend. Or Ellie or Jesse is the disregarded one. It doesn't even matter. They're all thoughts. Nora, Isaac, Manny, and the others are just people who she attached to after her father died. Ellie has yet to experience this friend stage because Joel was alive, which should have been her best friend since they aren't actually related or romantically connected. And the friend stage, yo, Ellie never got to experience the friend stage because Joel was alive. Should have been her best friend. As soon as he died, she went on the hunt. Obviously because she seen their face and she had more information to go off of. Whereas abY only heard his name. She was blindsided by this. She walked up on it, she creeping. She was like, what the hell? Whoa. So maybe in part 3 we'll see abY a part of an established crew. It's most likely gonna involve abY and Lev. It's probably gonna be Lev by the end of the game. Who cares? The only friends of abY that she knows died were Manny, Owen, and Mel. Manny, Mel, then Owen. When Manny dies in front of her, she doesn't shed a tear or anything, but maybe she was in immediate danger, so it's understandable. When she stumbles upon Mel's dead body, she has almost no reaction. She only begins to start breaking down and drop her weapon, crying and vomiting when she walks past Mel's dead body to get a closer look at Owen's corpse. And also when she thought Owen died and it was Danny who died, she let off the biggest sigh of relief when she found out it wasn't Owen. And it was, but like, Danny is still dead. Like, she's like, thank you. Like, could have been any of them in that bag. She would have had the same reaction. R.I.P. Danny, bruh. Both abY and Ellie are in love triangles and couldn't prioritize their respective crush due to the death of their parent, in Ellie's case, parental figure, which causes the destruction of their relationships. The friends they had were disregarded at almost every chance. For Ellie, it was with Jesse, and both protagonists rarely ask questions to the allies on their side and barely answer questions about themselves unless it's the crush asking. Which is probably why the AI was referencing that heartbreak. Now, the reason abY seems more interesting is because of what is happening off screen during the 4-year gap. And during these times, abY was training and getting stronger and better at killing in preparation of meeting Joel. During this time, Ellie was purposely avoiding Joel and feeling sad about the fact that he lied. During this period, abY traveled to a different state, joined the new military, and participated in a turf war. While tracking down her father's killer, Ellie went to the museum and the town dance. abY has better / more interesting environments, weapons, and a better moveset. Her playstyle allows the player to finish combat sections quicker, so they throw more enemies at you when you play as her. The fact that the player is automatically inclined to empathize with Ellie more, on the first playthrough at least, makes the player mentally check out the experience when playing as abY. This makes the player move more recklessly / brave, which causes them to play more aggressive. This is why abY sections are the way that it is. More focus on world building and gameplay and less characterization, and much easier to follow storyline. Everything else is like subtextual. It's supposed to be like just follow easy. Oh, her friends die, this happens. This allows the player to decompress and explore the similarities between abY, Joel, and Ellie, while switching the tone of the game from dark and gloomy to more sunlit environments. abY technically has 2 boss fights, the Rat King and Ellie, but the Rat King has 2 stages and Ellie only has 1. So technically abY has 3 boss fights. Ellie only has 1 boss fight that a blind man could have seen she was going to win, but only at that moment. And at any point, if Ellie would have tried abY, it would have resulted in her death or a loss on Ellie's part. Ellie could not take on abY. She's a trained killer, scar killer. So her being in the weakened state at the end of the game, it was the only way abY could. It's the only way Ellie could have won, which is why she let her go. If you understand what I'm trying to say, like Ellie couldn't have let it go. There would have been no let it go moment if abY was in control. If abY was in control, there's no let it go moment. Like, you're there fighting for your life. To put it in perspective, I'm gonna get ahead of myself really quick. abY had to weaken Joel in order to let it go, and her let it go moment, like, he was already bleeding and out, Ellie screaming behind him, like, that was when she decided to let it go. She's like, fuck, I fucked up, kind of, in a way. Like, she doesn't talk about Joel really after that. But in her flashback, she's on Joel's ass, on his head top. Because abY was so weak was the only reason why Ellie let her go. And she also had a kid with her. So, and if you remember correctly, that kid saved her life. Her and Dina's life, if you guys don't remember. So yeah, her letting her go makes sense. But this video is about abY. A great way the developers put you into abY's shoes is with the sequence you experience the story, mainly in the enemies you face. Getting a little off track, but first, when you're playing as abY and Ellie in the beginning, but mostly Ellie, first you see infected, which is normal, but you're seeing this from Ellie's perspective. Seeing infected, you also see it from abY's perspective, but that's irrelevant. Then you run into the WLF as Ellie. This is the first time you have to actually fight human characters. And when you run into the WLF as Ellie, it seems different than just bandits or hunters from part 1. They seem more deliberate and thought out, kind of like the game itself. Then you learn about them through notes and interactions. This is all while as Ellie, by the way. Then you run into Shamblers, learn why and how they end up like that. And finally, you end up learning about the Seraphites and how they fight, how to beat them and all that. You learn all that all as Ellie because Ellie is sheltered and never seen the things or knew they existed. So this is how they keep you in tune with Ellie's shoes. So when you switch to abY, it makes sense that she's seen all this already because she was in Seattle for 4 years. Her being the top scar killer makes sense and puts the player on the same page as abY gameplay wise, because by the time you fight with them as her, you know how they move and what to expect. The same goes with Shamblers and WLF, all that. This video is supposed to tell you that in order for the story to work, you were supposed to see her as a real person who was changed by the circumstance and corrupted by the broken world, the same way you understood Joel being the way he is. But some of you guys didn't do that. Some of you guys never understood Joel, which is going to be my next video. Now, an issue with this story and characters is that her world was destroyed via Joel. Killed her father, killed her friends, destroyed her faction. What else did he do? He did some more stuff. Um, oh, he destroyed the cure to humanity. My bad. In her eyes. But she doesn't really care. You see how I just put the cure to humanity at the end? That's the same mentality that abY's operating on. She don't give a about the yo, you think she cares about the cure, bro? She don't care about the cure. This wasn't The Last of Us Part 1. Alright? She wasn't on that mission. She don't care about the cure. She's like, you took my father. You must die. Anyways, her world was destroyed via Joel. But her world was never a fixed world to begin with. So her ideas from back when she was 16 or whatever were not only naive because of her young age, but also corrupted by the state of the world itself. So the world that she wanted to get back to good was just her like being with her father in the apocalypse. Like what? Joel's world that he was trying to achieve back was the restoration of the world. I like, bro, that's what he says at the beginning of the story. I started believing in the cure nonsense. This. You have to recognize that she is a victim of circumstance, for lack of better words. It's hard because the circumstances she is in is so detached from reality, she may as well be from a neighboring planet. abY is not supposed to be liked, at least not on initial playthrough. She is selfish, argumentative, cocky, and a control freak. Joel was just like a control freak. He was not selfish, he was not argumentative, and he was not cocky. You can play the game and don't have to care about her friends. But wait. But Ellie was selfish. She wasn't really selfish. Yeah, Ellie was not selfish. Ellie was argumentative and cocky though. And a bit of a control freak as well. You could play the game and don't have to care about her friends because they are already dead by the time you see their personalities. But you are supposed to observe the way they speak and move around abY and see how abY treats them. abY killing Joel because he killed her father isn't necessarily a bad thing, especially if he was just some random tweaker. But in her eyes, Joel is a random tweaker. In our eyes, he isn't. He had motives, bro. He was trying to save the world. Joel killing the Fireflies because they did not ask for consent and killing an unconscious teen should never be considered evil. And avenging your friend you mistreated for years before getting it the chance to apologize for how you treated them isn't necessarily anyone else's fault but your own. She wasn't mad that he died. She was mad he died before things seemed truly normal in Jackson, and they were back on good terms. That's exactly how the player feels. He died without seeing the chance of them being like the first game. Like, you know, the result of that friendship. You guys don't understand the end of the game or the purpose of the first game, which is why they had to go. I used to think that they were really doing a cash grab, but no. If you go watch the Grounded, the first time they dropped it on PS3, they talk about the detail and environment same way as they talk about in this game. Environmental storytelling and all this subtext and all that. They also talk about how the facial expressions on the PS3 and how it's supposed to tell you how the characters really feel, and this is why they redid that, and they also made the TV show at the same time so people could get a better understanding of the story. They're still not going to come outside and explain it because they want you to experience it for yourself. This is their intended, their whole goal is to get you to experience the story through the game media. That's their intention. They're not going to tell you what happens, what this means, this. They're not going to tell you that. But me, I don't work for them. I'll tell you exactly what the hell is going on, which is why you got to keep up and watch my videos. All those other videos that you've seen, I've seen them too, bro. And a lot of them got them wrong, bro. You could drop any name. They got them wrong, bro. They got a lot of stuff wrong. Nobody cares about abY's story, and nobody really cared about Joel's story either. I know you guys are gonna be mad at me in the comments. Oh, I didn't care about Joel's story. Yes, you did not care about Joel's story, bro. If you're mad at the way he died, you did not care about his story, bro. You did not understand him as a character. In the end, Ellie did not kill abY. It makes sense. It's because she didn't want to. She was really mad at herself. Joel said that he would do it all over again. The hospital incident. He said he'd do that all over again, which makes sense because he was in the right. And if you think he was in the wrong, you didn't understand his story. And if you think he only saved her because it was Ellie and she's special, and no, it's just because she was an underage teenager, bro. You witness how. Anyways, I'm gonna explain it later. abY got her revenge and did that brutal, but she wouldn't do it again. But if she could go back, she would definitely try to go save her dad. In the subtitles at the beginning of the game, abY goes by woman until Owen reveals her name to the player. This is because the player is not supposed to know who she is, but it doesn't matter if you do because they accounted for this game to be live streamed and leaked, as do all major game developers. At this point in 2025, that's what they're thinking about. This game is going to be streamed. This plays a major part in tricking the player into thinking that abY has no issues with Tommy or Joel, because their names and faces are revealed in the opening of the game. It gives the sense that they are complete strangers with no connected plot. Yes, because Joel and Tommy's names are revealed, it's like, okay, so that's Joel, that's Tommy, we're in this. So now that it's saying who's abY, it's like, whoa, we don't know who abY is. Like, whoa, she's just some random person. What the like, what is this? This would have been a thing. Like, if they made a sequel just with abY or some other character, this would have been a problem. They would have been like, whoa, who is this people? They have nothing to do with Joel and Ellie, and no. The whole fight sequence in the ski lift is reminiscent of the David portion of the first game. Fight with a stranger to save her life, fighting off a bunch of infected in the winter. And because it's so early in the game, the player is not going to be thinking that she was looking for him. And if they did, the gameplay would keep their mind off of it, and the fact that she's seen his whole face would deter any thought, along with the scripted sequence of Tommy asking to get the runner off of him. Neil said that they wanted the player to think that I trapped Joel, but because we were so confused on her motivations and her overall inclusion, it made us just hate the character if you love Joel. And it kind of like makes you think like, oh, she also knows this is Tommy and Joel, and she doesn't care. Like, you know, it makes you think like, okay, we got our names already. Like, the names are irrelevant. But all abY had to go off of was Joel's name, Joel and Tommy's name. She never seen these people in her life. There's no connection. So in a way, they're kind of right, but she was only needed their names. But you wouldn't know that on first playthrough. On first playthrough, you just think, okay, they're just strangers. Something's going to happen. Maybe they're going to have to link up and help Ellie at some point. I don't know. The player is questioning why we are playing as abY at this point and not Joel. But because of the high stakes situation, they're just thrown into it. They're just like, they just got to move on with it. They're like, whoa. And they like abY. They like the way abY plays. She's there crushing people's faces, kicking them up. She fights rough. In the establishing shot of abY's friends, the order they appear in are the order they die in. And from abY's perspective, the shot is in reverse, in the order she finds out they die. That's just a little interesting little tidbit. Owen knows the real abY. So when he shows her the town of Jackson, was low-key expecting her to see that self-sustained life was still possible, living in a city. He's like, they have lights, they have water, they have patrol, they have, like, you know, they're not at war. But she knows the chances of her seeing it like that is slim. So he tries to turn her off of the mission by saying if she will be putting the lives of her friends in danger. But remember, abY doesn't really give a about her friends. Then he says Mel is pregnant. This is trying to make her tell her like, yo, that's my kid, bro. Like, this is my kid. Like, we're not about to go risk this for my kid and go invade this town. But because of her connection to Owen, She just gets emotionally unstable, and it puts her in her me versus everyone mind state. And he recognizes this state that she's in, which makes him say, "See you at home." And he leaves her by herself. He says, "See you at home," and he leaves her. He's like, "Yo, Abby's in one of her moods again, bro. She's just about to go. I don't know what she's about to do. She's about to do some dumb cocky bro." Now we're getting into the elephant in the room, which is Joel's death. I gotta explain her whole intro part now. Now that I gave you some backstory on her character, I'm gonna give you the intro. While she is by herself, Abby keeps asking questions like, where did they go? While she follows horse tracks. She knows how to hunt. This keeps new players engaged with her, especially seeing how she fights. She fights like a ruthless Nadine from Uncharted 4. So the player is inclined to want to know who she is pursuing in hopes that it's not Ellie or Dina. When she is rescued by Joel, the player is excited to see him in action and would most likely question why we aren't playing as him, / what his connection to Abby is going to be. Because of the demeanor, the player assumes she is just in shock from the possibility of dying, which she probably is. But because she had no reaction to his face, her intentions and motivations remained unclear. Because of the high stakes / fast paced situation, her reaction to the name reveal goes unnoticed, and the fact that she was silent the whole time points how we should have been suspicious of her immediately, especially seeing how talkative she was with Owen and when she was alone. This only proves the fact that she was going to harm whoever was on patrol and interrogating them on her own. In the end, she needed her friends because taking on the two brothers would have been suicide. Without Joel or Ellie, Abby would have fallen victim to the harsh world, which is the true villain of this story. This even extends to Joel killing the Fireflies, because they disbanded after being stripped of their final chance to gain control. Had they continued fighting Fedra, they would have lost, seeing as how an old man caused them to disband. Fedra would have killed all of Abby's friends and the doctor. They would have taken the cure, and the only ones who would have survived happy is Joel and Tommy. Had Joel just walked out of the Fireflies and left Ellie to die. Tommy revealing the names makes sense, seeing as how he was the farthest removed from the nitty-gritty of the apocalypse and actively avoided it. Him having a wife shows how he's a trusting individual, which is most likely why he was used by Marlene. Tommy living in Jackson longer than Joel would lead to him making a decision like this. But much like Joel, he too reverted to his pre-outbreak self, where he was willing to pull over and help a family with a kid. He probably was the reason they went to save Abby in the first place. Ironically, Joel would have died with Tommy, but to a horde in a blizzard. As they said, making it to the Baldwin place could work, in Joel's words, meaning it wasn't guaranteed. And that's because if you paid attention to the story, the Baldwin place was on Tommy and Joel's patrol route. They were supposed to go there. So if Joel would have made it to the Baldwin place without meeting Abby, he still would have ran into the crew and still would have been tortured. But there's more on that later. Now, the nitty gritty scene, bro. Joel's death. Joel is aware and suspicious of the fact that an armed military age group is set up shop so close to Jackson. You can see it in his responses here. But Tommy's welcomingness to the Salt Lake City crew confirmed their identities and where they lived, which is the only information Abby was going off of, and the only information she needed was, where is Tommy or where is Joel? She needed Tommy to get to Joel, and she was down to get a stranger to get Tommy. So when Owen says you are nothing but lucky and Abby responds with you have no idea, they're telling the truth. Owen was the one who brought the shotgun, and he warned the crew about Jackson's numbers and Abby's plan to torture people, which is why they initiated the kill circle. They were expecting strangers to come. She said, I'm going to do it myself. He went and he told them. They were waiting by the gate, opened the gate for them. They're like, oh, you gave us a heart attack. The crew only leave the garage when Abby does, and they close the door and follow behind Joel. who is cautious and keeping a safe distance, whereas Tommy followed Abby asking about electricity while ignoring the fully operational Humvee. Joel screams out Tommy could be in blame or worry, depending on what the player thinks. The plan was torture anyone to find Joel and kill him, not to torture Joel. But the reason she did torture him is because she built him up as a major threat. He just seemed like some old dude, so she shot him in the leg to see how he'd react, and if he was the monster she built him up to be. She could have used a pistol, but she was terrified, much like the player would be when they used the shotgun, or she was having a little bit too much fun, like the player when he's using the shotgun. You could hear it in her voice that she was terrified or excited. But when he doesn't waver or show fear, she takes it upon herself to make him scared. Which won't work because torture is only to make them scared so that they want it to stop. So they'll hand over information. And if he is the info that they wanted, then it'd be impossible to scare him. There's no information you need from him. So the torturing will just be like, you know, exactly how it's presented. Just mindless, senseless, like, you know, over emotional. Joel being the older brother, he doesn't care if he gets hurt as long as the person under his watch isn't harmed. So as long as they leave Tommy alone, he's okay. But if Tommy were jumped, they torture him to death because he was the initial target to torture in search of Joel. So Joel has nothing to fear. Joel also stayed out of politics and societal issues for 20 years. If he did have enemies, they'd be dead. He probably knew they were fireflies, but were too young to be a part of the dead crew. So he probably did the math that they were young and naive, thinking they were going to restore the world to a state they couldn't understand nor perceive. I believe the first swing that she took was intended to kill him. But Joel is a tank, so he still wanted to see Ellie, so he fought. Also, Abby is a woman, so he was fighting like strong his whole life, hardened bodies and all that. Everyone else just wanted to give Abby her space because, let's face it, everyone went this long without thinking a cure was possible or having one. It didn't affect their lives in any way. If they never find a cure, it changes nothing in their lives. Only if the cure is 100% possible, that's when they change their lives. So it's not worth killing Ellie over. But Abby not having a dad did affect her life. And this is why she wanted him dead, and this is why they let him torture her. Because they seen the change in the way she acted. The change in personality after her dad died. The only reason she stopped torturing him was because Ellie started screaming and took her out of the situation. She wasn't feeling satisfied and still was angry. She thought torturing him would be a better option and more satisfying than a bullet. Which is why she says, "You want what I want, right?" But when Owen reminds her to end it, as in end her own suffering, since his life is eating you up so much, go ahead and end it. Then she hears Ellie's screams, reminiscent of her own, and she thinks, what am I doing? Knowing she tried to kill him with the first blow in an attempt to show how strong she is if she can take out the monster in one swing, she made sure to put all her strength and suffering into the final blow, euthanizing her wounded enemy in front of a person she could only assume loved the old man. Stopping at that point would have been the evil thing to do. Ending him in that moment was the best she could have done. But remember, she wouldn't do it at all. She wouldn't go back. If she could go back, she'd go back to the point of the hospital. Abby betraying Joel is an inverse of Ellie being betrayed by David. The girl was underestimated, and the man paid the price with his life. Abby freaking out over her dad's death when he was the only one intentionally trying to kill the only cure shows her selfish nature and how she did not really care about the human race and wouldn't sacrifice herself or her father for it. a sentiment that people online think Joel shares because he had rescued a child from unconsenting, life-ending surgery. Jerry died for the cure. Joel was prepared to die for a chance at the cure that day in the hospital. He didn't think it would be possible to make it out and was grateful he did, much like his journey in the first game. He knew killing Marlene, the Queen Firefly, would leave the Fireflies broken, and it did, so they wouldn't pursue her. But instead, they made them pursue him. I guess he figured the doctor must have been just as rare as finding the cure or being immune, so he offed the head surgeon. Joel used to watch movies, and he used to live life in 2013. So he knows how, he most likely knows what a head surgeon is. You understand? He knows how they look, how they move, how they operate. abY is supposed to be hated, yes, but you're supposed to question why you hate her. Honestly, her killing Joel is a valid excuse for why to hate her. Because, like, why are you killing Joel? I thought you said you'd sacrifice yourself. You'd be down to sacrifice yourself. So you wouldn't be down to sacrifice your own diet? Your dad wouldn't be down to sacrifice himself for a chance at the cure? No. Because as I said before, even if they did make the cure, Fedra would have came and took that, wiped them out. Same result. Without Joel or Ellie, abY is falling victim to the world. All of her friends were destined to die. If she would have made it to Santa Barbara with Owen and Mel, and Yara and Lev, they all would have been captured by the slavers, all of them. And then since they're in the slavers, who's looking for them? Not Ellie. Joel had to die. You could say, yeah, he didn't have to die in this game. He didn't have to die that early. He didn't have to. But again, you guys did not understand Joel's arc. So please, I'm giving you guys time to go do your research on the game, on the first game. Take the same things that I'm taking into account here, how she lived her life, and Ray. I didn't even get into full detail. I'm just trying to show you guys, like, the basics to make you guys want to be like, okay, I can understand. The world is just fuck. But yeah, anyways, that's my video. Next video is going to be about Joel. Then we're going to go Tommy. Then we're going to go Ellie, most likely.